Hey there, Bruce, and welcome back to the Game of Fortune. It is time for us to move on to the third death game, but first we get an opportunity to learn some information, and I'm thinking about sticking around and hearing what Elizabeth has to say about Everett, because it was just getting juicy, you know what I mean? Alright, let's get on it. Stay and listen. I stayed silent and simply looked between Elizabeth and Everett. Now would be a good time to listen in on some bits of Everett's past, at least the parts that he probably wouldn't share with me. Well, what are you going to start with? Let's begin with the basics. Do you remember the incident? How could I forget? I was driving a car and then I remember the bright light from that drunk driver swerving around like a maniac. Well, I didn't exactly remember the impact, but I know how it ended. You're in a car crash? About 4 years ago. 8 years ago. Yes, 8 years ago. Sorry to hear that. Sounds like it was a major wreck. You could say that. I was in a coma for quite some time. That's not... Elizabeth? Everett shot a glare at Elizabeth's direction and she in turn only rolled her eyes. If you insist on keeping your secrets, then fine. Well then, let's move on to the important part. Do you remember anything from when you were in your coma? No, nothing. Nothing. Nothing at all. In other words, he died and the digits of Eden brought him back to life? Everett frowned and shook his head. It's like I got into the crash and then I woke up right afterwards. There's nothing to say. Truly. Well, that's disappointing, but not exactly unexpected. Everything you've said matches up with what other people have gone through, the same thing. Do you write about people who've woken up from comas, Elizabeth? Something like that. Most of my work involves spirituality or mysticism in some way. Most people in comas don't dream though. That being said, some people do claim to have dreams or some bizarre experiences while having been in a coma. Some people say that they could hear and see the caretakers, but they couldn't recognize their faces. Others say that they remember hearing their loved ones' voices. But more often than not, that's more of a sign that someone's recovered from a coma. Not an experience that they have while in the coma itself. A signal of sorts that one is returning to life. I've always wondered if, by chance, people might have some glimpse of the afterlife in some mystic realm through the states of consciousness. Or maybe if someone did die and in fact came back to life, what would they be able to tell us? Sadly, I can't say I've any luck getting so much as concrete and consistent answer. I'm sorry I couldn't be more help to you in that regard. All I remember is the crash and then waking up. So you said this happened 8 years ago. What were you doing? I was just delivering a package. Let me guess, he thought it was 4 years because he died. He was dead for 4 years and then they resurrected him. And it's been 4 years since he's been resurrected. I was just delivering a package. Nothing that particularly special. That's an interesting way of saying you were delivering a person to play in this game. Huh? Elizabeth, there's no need to say such things aloud, is there? Wait, hold up. You're telling me you were like driving one of the participants to play this game 8 years ago? Well, yes. Again, it was quite a few years ago, so it's not exactly something I remember perfectly, but I believe they were fine after they got the proper medical care. Of course they were. Zeph made it here after all. Are you saying that Zeph was the person you were driving 8 years ago? Yes, I believe so. I doubt that you conveniently forgot, but Zeph's like 24. If he would have been in this game 8 years ago, he would have been, what, 16? You drove a 16-year-old to some weird godless death game? Goddess death game? Well, it wasn't my choice. I was just acting as the driver to deliver him to the game. Is that really true? Weren't you supposed to play alongside him? Well, yes, I was, but again, it wasn't as though I wanted to partner with to be a teenager. I would certainly hope not. William's only 20, and that's the minimum age I would let someone get involved in this mess. How do you know all this stuff, Elizabeth? Did you, like, investigate all this or something? Please, the less I know about the digits of Eden, the better. It was just a coincidence, really. I was called in to replace Everett or Zeph at the time. My former student asked a favour of me, so I obliged him. Part of me wishes that I'd said no, but I figured I owed him at least one last favour. Wait, so you've been here before? You played through the Game of Fortune in the past? Indeed, not that I'm exactly excited to recount all the bloody details. Grant was there too. He was a much more hot-headed youth back then. So you played and you survived. Grant too. I'm not the only one who's done so. You know, Zeph and Kishi have as well. Philip too, but that many veterans? Who'd want to come here again? Quite a number, so it would seem. Yes, quite a number. Now can we talk about something else? It's not exactly fun for me to recall that horrible accident, you know. Now I only had more questions. This all seems so shady. I mean, yeah, why would Zeph at 16 want to be part of the Game of Fortune? Why was Everett even escorting him or bringing him over? And how was it possible that so many people had played this game and survived? Not only that, they'd come back. This just seems too suspicious to be a coincidence. Once again, I had more questions, but I doubted that Everett would eagerly tell me anything. Elizabeth might be more willing to talk about these things, though. Maybe I can find some time to talk to her about. My thoughts were interrupted as I heard the sound of a door opening. The last group was here. Since 3 died in the most recent round, then that means only 1 person could die from the last group. I just needed Kishi and Clyde alive. Come on, come on. I felt sick, hoping that Maria or Lilith might have died, especially considering everything that had happened. Lilith had lost her sister and was probably still in shock or traumatized, and honestly I like Maria. It's not like I want her dead, it's just... I want to survive. I want to get out of here with Clyde. I just want to leave this crazy place. I watched eagerly to see who would walk in first. First was Lilith, looking, well, more focused than she'd been before. Then came Kishi. Okay, that was good. I just needed Clyde. Come on, Clyde. Please, please, please. Clyde, if you don't hurry up, I think Devon's going to explode. I'm coming. Don't rush me. I let out a heavy sigh and felt all the tension in my body relax. It wasn't as bad as the first time, but I couldn't help but get nervous knowing that he might not have made it. I see you're still waiting with bated breath for me, huh? Oh yeah, you got me hook, line and sinker. Want to reel me in before I get away? No, I think I'll just throw you back. Oh, the pain of rejection. We're even back to our usual banter. So is this everyone? Let's see. Clyde looked around the lounge to get a count of everyone and then nodded to himself. So you, Alphonse and Everett beat Teresa? Oh yeah, we kicked her ass to hell and back. Except not back, just to hell. Lilith glared in my direction. I saw her gloved hands ball up into fists. Did she suffer? Well, sort of. I mean, not in the physical sense anyway. But she was real upset that we beat her, if that makes sense. Oh, you're back to talking? Yeah, I am. That bitch had the gall to go around and play with our lives. I only wish I could have been there to see her lose herself. Well, I don't think you'll get that chance, unfortunately. Not until next time. But if you can imagine it... But you can imagine it if it'll make you feel better. Guess that's all I can do. A drink will probably help too. Lilith moved over to the kitchenette, and in her place walked in Alphonse, who looked between Clyde and Kishi. So Maria didn't make it, huh? Clyde and Kishi shook their heads. Well, that's just the way these things go. It was sort of a free-for-all kind of game we were in. We each had to find these little keys and unlock safe rooms, but there were only 3 keys and 3 doors, so... I get it. Belle needed a game where 1 person died, and Maria just drew the short end of the stick. It's actually not quite like that. Maria gave her key up to Lilith so she could survive. Really now? She did that? Clyde nodded. You can go and ask Lilith herself if you don't believe us. Nah, don't worry about it. That sounds like her. Let me guess. She tried doing it to be helpful, huh? What, some kind of sacrifice to get Lilith back into the right state of mind? I guess you could say it was the icing on the cake. She spent the better part of the entire game trying to get Lilith out of her state of shock. Well, if you want to get technical, she spent the entire game before the game trying to help her too, encouraging her to keep going, to fight for her sister, really using everything and anything to help her back into her feet. I was surprised she managed to get anything to work. And she's always so eager to help, even if it means getting herself killed. Alphonse sighed, but seemed to grin at the same time. Well, thanks for letting me know. Glad to know she went out like that, at least. Alphonse gave each of us a curt nod and then walked back over toward the kitchenette to talk with Lilith. Is it really what happened? More or less. She really gave up her life for Lilith's sake? Yeah, not ideal for me, but what can you do? Not ideal? We didn't really get a lot of chances to talk, since she was dealing with Lilith at the time, so we never really had much of a chance to learn what she wanted to wish for, at least no confirmation. Oh well, that's what you want to know. I can probably fill you in. You got information? Well, go ahead and spill it out. Yeah, well, honestly, it wasn't that hard to get. Alphonse basically admitted that he and Maria were going to try and get this Nigel guy killed. Seriously? If you don't believe me, I'm sure you can just go up to him and ask, and he'll just tell you straight to your face. Kishi bit her fingernail and looked down at the ground. Well, with the 2 of them, it's definitely possible. Alright, well, I guess I'm going to have to try and talk some sense into him then. Good luck with that, he seems, determined. Well, I gotta try at least. There's one more thing. I'm pretty sure that Everett thinks that Alphonse and Maria were put into this game by your grandma, Kana. So he told you all that, huh? A few things here and there. Feeling kind of lost here? Long story short, the blue masked woman from before is Kishi's grandma, and her grandma, along with a few others, decided who gets to be part of these games. I mean, he's not wrong. She did bring up the idea of letting Maria participate. But it's not like she did it thinking that Maria or her partner would try to go after Nigel. Yeah, well, Everett thinks otherwise. And I think that if things don't go well for you, that he's going to get some kind of retribution on her, or something. He didn't spell it out, but it was definitely a clear threat. He said that? Yeah, and you can ask Alphonse too, or better yet, go ask Everett. Though I think he wouldn't really feel like telling you the whole truth. For fuck's sake. Kishi pinched the bridge of her nose and shook her head. Great. Just great. Now Everett thinks that my grandma is out to get Nigel. If things don't go well, and he's going to try and take it out on her. Can these people think for a fucking second about what they're doing? God, why the hell do they have to make my fucking job so damn difficult? Do they just want a goddamn repeat of what happened last time? Kishi started ranting and pacing around us, doing her best to keep her voice in control, but it was obvious that the information was pissing her off. I'd never seen Kishi so frustrated before, but I wasn't quite done yet. Hey, don't forget about your deal. You said you'd tell us how to get out of here alive if you got the info you wanted. You also said you'd tell us about the Digits of Eden, and what you think Everett's intentions were with trying to play the game with Devon, Lilith and Laura. Kishi paused for a moment and seemed to regain her focus once I reminded her of our deal. Right. Okay, well, buckle up, you two. What do you want to hear first? How to survive this place, obviously. That comes first and foremost. Ah, well, that's easy. Easy to explain, but it might be hard to swallow. Kishi took a deep breath and then looked between Clyde and me. If you both want to survive, all you have to do is win the game. Huh? Do you mean the Game of Fortune, not like the next game? Basically, that's all there is to it. If each of you wins, then you've done your part. Wait, what do you mean each of you wins? There's only one winner, right? Everyone else just dies. Well, the truth of the matter is, we don't play this game once. What? We sort of loop over and over again. We play and we get a winner and then we play again. You're kidding, right? You can't be serious about this, can you? I'm not. If I'm being honest, chances are we've already gone through a few cycles, maybe. I'm just guessing based on the sense of deja vu I get from time to time. Then you're telling me we might have already gone and won our or lost this game already? And we're doing it all over again? Kishi nodded. And we'll keep doing it until everyone's gotten a win. That's how the game works. But it doesn't make any sense. Why have a game when there's only one winner and then let everyone get a chance to win? Doesn't that kind of defeat the purpose? Kishi shrugged again. That's just how Belle operates. Maybe it's part of her lesson, or maybe she thinks everyone is entitled to win and a wish. But the good part about it is once everyone gets a wish, she lets us leave. So, you know, we all get out of here, eventually. So if what you're saying is true, then we're basically going to die 15 times? At least 15 times. Sometimes it can go on more than that. But okay, fine. Next question is, why didn't anyone tell us this? Do you think that I'm happy thinking that I'm actually going to die? I'm a bit more at ease knowing that if I fuck up, I'm just not just like gone forever. What about Lilith? Don't you think she wouldn't be so damn shocked if you told her this stuff earlier? Because if we tell you, then it ruins your chances of winning. We don't know if you've won until the end. And if you just give up because things are hard, then you lose the motivation to fight. Sounds kind of ridiculous, don't you think? I mean, I sort of get it, but clearly you know about this, and it hasn't stopped you from trying to win, has it? Well, that's somewhat true, but the desire to live and fight are much better motivators than you think. Can't deny that much. But then how come we don't remember any of these loops or whatever? Is this the first one? I doubt it. Like I said, I get the feeling I've gone through this a few times. Has that happened to any of you? Some word or feeling make you remember things, or like you feel like you've done it before? Something like that, I guess. Same here, though. It's not really strong, just some bubbling emotions. Could just be me getting caught up in the moment of a game or something. Okay, well, after some wins, Belle wipes our memories. So after someone wins, Belle wipes our memories, so we don't recall what happened in that particular cycle. But sometimes you can still recall things here and there. Usually causes a headache, though. Headaches? I can't say that I've ever had a headache while I was here. I've had a few. That's usually when the deja vu feelings come in. Well, that ought to be proof enough that I'm not lying to you, at least. Everyone here is safe. Well, physically safe. We're all free to leave once we get a win. Which is why you should always try to win, no matter what. And it'll be bad if you have to go through 10 more cycles because you gave up from time to time. Guess that makes sense. I felt an odd sense of relief and frustration. Sure, if she was telling the truth, and that meant that no matter what happened, no matter how many times, how many wins and losses, no matter how many deaths were suffered, we'd come back to life at the end of all this. There was no risk, at least not a physical one. What about after everything was done? Would we simply remember every cycle, every wound, every game, every decision? Would it all come flooding back and overwhelm us? Would it come in drips? Would we even be able to remember every little detail of what happened here? Honestly, I'd like to forget everything that happened here, but I doubt it'll be so simple. Alright, so that answers that question at least. I mean, I guess you don't need to tell us that, but let's move on to the more important piece here. What's the deal with the Digits of Eden? What are they exactly? Oh, right. You're the granddaughter of one of the leaders, so you probably know a bit about it, right? That I am, but you already knew that. Well, I guess I can give you a general overview for what they are. The Digits of Eden are... Well, it might be better to say that There are 2 digits of Eden, not just one. 2 of them? That's how I make sense of it. There's a front side and a back side, or an underground side. They describe themselves as a secret society, a sort of invite-only group of people that get benefits and help. They trade goods, money, help one another find jobs, opportunities, provide housing, medicine, and all sorts of things. If you need help, they'll be glad to give you what you need to help you get back on your feet. Huh. Sounds kind of like a nice thing when you put it that way. Like I said, that's the front part of the organization. They try and make themselves look nice and pretty. But there's a give and take. You're expected to pay like taxes or something kind of like it eventually. Sort of like if you get something out of them, then eventually they'll ask for something in return. Of course, things can't be that simple. Sounds to me like a tax, honestly, or some kind of roundabout cost for getting help. Yeah, but that's just the front. Real money. The real money's from selling wishes. Selling wishes? Oh, you mean like they sell opportunities to be part of the Game of Fortune? Bingo. That's where the big money comes in. There are a lot of wealthy and powerful people who want the chance to have a wish granted. So that's when the Digits of Eden get a lot of their funding, so to speak. I guess since you're guaranteed to live and get a wish, that's definitely worth the cost. Not to mention it gets you in the good graces of a lot of influential and powerful people. Though it's honestly kind of a split between that and the taxes that they pull in for how they get most of their money. I guess it keeps them from being overly reliant on these big donors. And they just collect money and influence for what? Do they need anything else? I don't know, I figured you'd collect money and influence for some grand goal. Kishi shrugged. Not my knowledge. Pretty sure they're just happy getting tons of money and power to do whatever the hell they want. Imagine having a bunch of people under your thumb, money to indulge yourself, and people begging to give you money or be your friend in hopes of getting a wish granted. That might be enough for some people. True, I'm just happy they're not trying to summon some otherworldly being or something like that. Different kind of cult, but they're still a cult at the end of the day. I mean, we're trapped in this place of the otherworldly being, aren't we? Just assholes trying to get money and influence, as usual. Yeah, cults are like that. Anyway, that's a very high-view explanation as to what they are. I'm sure someone like Everett or Philip could probably tell you more about them. Everett's been involved with them for far longer than I've been alive, and Philip, well, I'm sure he could give you a grand history lesson on the whole thing. I'm not all too excited with talking about this kind of stuff with either of them. Well, you didn't have to. It's not like your survival depends on it. What's wrong with Philip? If you want to state your curiosity, I just figured I'd mention it. Yeah, well, there's one last thing. What's Everett's goal with trying to influence Devon, Lilith, and Laura? Oh, that's easy. He's trying to get you to believe in anything he says. Probably so he can... Pardon? Don't mean to interrupt the conversation you three are having. Philip tapped his cane on the ground to get our attention. We're chatting about the next groups that'll be going through. We wouldn't want to keep Belle waiting for too long, after all. Where's the worst timing? Well, it's nothing you got to worry about. I think we're both smart enough not to fall for his bullshit. Don't worry about it, Philip. We'll be on our way. Kishi walked alongside Philip, over toward the game doors. Well, I guess we got some answers at least. But I guess I'm just wondering about all this now. Feels like we got ourselves into something that's bigger than us, you know? Yeah, but all we can do is press onward, right? We both nodded and joined up with the others. Alright everyone, there's only 8 of us now, so it should be easy to split into groups this time around. There's only one pair that's made it this far, and that's Clyde and Devon. Aside from that, the rest of us are solos. That seems to be accurate. That being said, I want to propose something. Oh, what might that be? I'd like to join a group with Everett and Alphonse if possible. The last person could be anyone else. I don't really care, so it's fine with me. Great. Everett, what about you? With all due respect, I think I'll have to decline. Huh? But why? Simple. I had my own group I wanted to be part of. I wanted to join with Lilith and Clyde, where possible. You want to join with me? You going to explain yourself? Variety is the spice of life, and frankly, I've wanted to talk with Lilith for a while now, but I missed the opportunity in the first round, and she was not in a position to speak last round. That seems like a good chance to talk. You do realize there's not going to be much time to talk when we're playing a game to the death, right? That's fine. It's something I prefer to ask when there's less of us anyway. Well, that explains Lilith, but why do you want to play a game with me? No particular reason. I just figured it would be interesting. If it bothers you, know that you don't have to accept. I mean, I guess there's no reason not to. If you're going to play a game with Everett, I'll join you. Devon, you don't have to do that. We've been doing well enough split apart. The chances that we won't see each other again after each game get higher and higher. So at least I'll be able to help you if we're together. Just let her join you, idiot. I don't feel like wasting time over this. Alright, she can come. That would mean that it's Elizabeth, Kishi, Alphonse, and myself for the other group. Stuck with you again. 3 times in a row, this must be some kind of cosmic curse put upon me. Hey, look on the bright side. Each time we've been together in a game, we've survived. I'd say I'm your good luck charm. I'm not sure what kind of fortune you're bringing me, but it's certainly nothing good. Well, this isn't ideal, but I can work with it. So all we need to determine now is who's going to go in what door. I'm fine going through the first door, honestly. Same. Might as well get this over with quickly. Agreed, it's better to go early this time around. We went first last time, but it's fine with me too. I'm rested and ready to go. And it seems settled. Your group will go first and we'll go second. Oh, good luck and good fortune to the rest of you then. Our group nodded and we walked through the first door. The waiting room was the same as it always was. The only difference this time was I was leaning up against Clyde as we walked in, holding onto his hand, as if I'd fall into the abyss if I let go of him. Though frankly, I was probably just being a bit dramatic. I hadn't seen Clyde through most of these games. Each time that I waited for him, I was worried he'd be gone. Even now that we know the truth, that we come back if we die, it feels a little scary to think that I'll lose him anyway. No one wants to die. No one wants to suffer. No one wants to be torn away from life. Even if one of us or both of us are doomed to die, I don't want to see him suffer. You going to latch onto him like a lemur, or are you going to give him some room to breathe? Lilith, no need to be harsh. Can you blame her for wanting to be close to the person she cares about? No, but that doesn't mean I have to like looking at it. Anyway, you said you had a question for me. Well, now's the time to go about asking it. You're right. Now that we're alone, or relatively alone, I wanted to ask you if you remember anything. Remembered what? So you truly don't remember then? Everett, what the fuck are you talking about? Everett looked down and grumbled. Don't worry about it, not much of an issue if you can't recall. Is he talking about the previous loop maybe? Or does she know him from somewhere outside the game? Now Clyde's looking at him more suspiciously. Is it all you wanted to ask me? That's what was so important? If I remembered anything? Lilith walked up to Everett and started inspecting his face closely. I mean, you do look kind of familiar, but I can't exactly remember why. Maybe we'd been at a party or a club or something. Yes, I suppose something like that is possible. There are ways that I think I'd be able to jog your memory though. Such as... Did someone say party? Belle's voice drew our attention and we turned our heads toward the screen in the waiting room. How's everyone doing? Y'all are getting excited for the next game? About as excited as anyone could be for one of these things. My oh my, is that... It is. Devon and Clyde finally in the same game room together. Is that really something to talk about? Here I was, worried that you two had a serious lovers spat and were avoiding one another like the plague. That would require us to be lovers first. And to have a spat also. I guess I'm just surprised to see you two apart for so long. You two usually are so what? Intertwined like the strings of a rope. Thanks? Don't mention it, I'm just happy to see you two together once again. Especially since it means you get to play a game together again. Aren't you curious as to what it'll be? Maybe it'll be a team game and you two can work together. Or maybe it'll be torn apart and have your bond tested to the absolute limit. That's... Hey, can you stop fawning over those two? We're in the room too. Oh Lilith, I could never forget about you and your bad manners. What? Anyway, that's enough banter. Let's get into the details of the game. First, the roulette. And so the roulette was shown on screen again. The first game I played was Full Player Dilemma. The one after that was 3 versus 1 game. It's probably all randomized, but maybe I'll get a 2 versus 2 game, or worse yet, an all for 1 game. But did that even matter? Kishi said we were going through loops, so does it matter if I play a game that led to my death? What if I had to play against Clyde? Would that make a difference at all? Even if she was telling the truth, I didn't want to see Clyde get hurt. I didn't want to see him die. And I sure as hell didn't want him to be the person who ended up killing him if I could help it. Not that it was my decision. Soon the roulette cycle began to slow down, until finally it was clear what kind of game we'd be playing. It seems we'd be playing 4-player dilemma. How exciting. That was good. Chances are we might all be able to survive a game like this. Or at least Clyde and I would be able to. So what game will we be playing exactly? I got something in mind. We'll play Dragon Hoard Snatchers. You know, you have a very strange naming convention when it comes to your games, Belle. I like to think it makes them memorable. So how do we play whatever game this is? Simple. Why don't you enter the game room and you'll find out yourself. Always leave the rules for later, huh? Ah, you know what to do. I'll see you shortly. Belle winked before disappearing from the screen. I suppose there's nothing to be done but play along. That's all we can ever do, isn't it? Whatever. Lilith was the first to leave the waiting room and enter into the game room. Everett followed close behind her, leaving me and Clyde alone in the waiting room. How do you feel about all this? You mean the specific situation? Or this whole game thing in general? More the generalized thing. I mean, if what Kishi said was true, then we're just playing games killing and dying over and over again. It feels weird to have this weird tension all the time. Yeah, I get what you mean. I don't think that Kishi's lying. Maybe it's just a gut instinct, but I want to believe her. As for this whole situation, well, I don't know. If we're just looping over and over again, then I kind of just want it to end and go home. You and me both. Sucks that today's a Sunday and we're going to have to go to work tomorrow. What? You don't think we can call in for a mental health day? Sure, Clyde. You want to explain to them that we got involved in some weird death game called the Game of Fourtune? I'm sure that'll go over well. Yeah, I'll probably get checked into some kind of psych ward. At least you get the day off work, though. Or I'll just get fired. Probably fired, yeah. Clyde sighed and shook his head. Well, I guess I'll deal with that when it comes to it. For now, let's just try and get through this game and we'll figure out what we'll do afterwards. Right, we could do this. He nodded and then led me into the game room. We walked inside some metallic room with a large machine right in the middle. It seemed pretty obvious what the dragon and dragon Hoard Snatchers was. That's a pretty big gachapon machine? Gachapon. It's a machine that pops out these little pods that have toys in them. It's kind of like a gumball machine for toys. Yeah, but it can be more than just toys. Sometimes it's snacks, action figures, bottle caps. Bottle caps? It's kind of like a collector's thing. You try and get the rare stuff. And then in that case, it's more similar to baseball cards. Sure, you can put it that way. And we have a really big one. Guessing we're not trying to get toys out of them. Correct, Amundo. Belle popped up behind the others with a wide smile. Ain't it just the most beautiful gachapon you've ever seen? Well, certainly the biggest I've ever seen. And it's not all about size, you know. She's right, size isn't everything. This is more about spectacle. So what's the game about? I'm assuming it has something to do with the dragon on top of the gachapon. You'd be very astute. I'll go over the rules now, so listen carefully. Dragon Hoard Snatchers is a game about grabbing heaps of treasure from the ferocious sleeping dragon. The hoard, so to speak, are the gachapon pods inside this machine. Riches beyond your wildest dreams, so they're more just placeholders for actual riches. So we're not going to be making any money out of this? Nope. You see, you'll each take turns taking pods of riches from the sleeping dragon. You can take 1 or 2 pods at a time by pulling the lever on the side of the machine. After you pull it once or twice, you receive your pods, and then your turn will end and move on to the next person in line. Alright, sounds simple enough. So what's the goal then? Get as much treasure as possible? No, the goal is to survive. Survive? That's right. You see, there are 16 total pods of treasure inside the dragon hoard, but there are also 2 dragon eggs. The dragon will notice if its eggs are stolen and will roast anyone who attempts to steal them with powerful flames. Lilith shuddered at the mention of flames. Why fire? Why does it have to be fucking fire? Because dragons breathe fire. Don't you know this already? Anyway, the key to survival is simply not steal a dragon egg if it shows up. Easy peasy, right? I see now. We're basically trying to make it so that we don't end up having to take a dragon egg. You got it. The pods will show whether they have a dragon egg or just regular treasure inside, but when it's your turn, you must take at least 1 pod. You'll have 60 seconds to determine how many pods you want to steal, otherwise it'll be set to the maximum amount of 2 pods. If you end up stealing 2 pods and the first pod contains a dragon egg, the gachapon will stop and the dragon will roast you. Put simply, whenever a dragon egg is stolen, that's the end of things. Understood. This all seems very simple. It's a simple game, isn't it? But I'll take any questions that you have now. Alright, I'll ask first. No one else can interfere when you're going to pull the lever, right? It'd be pretty bad if you got screwed over because someone messed with your turn. Oh, I agree, which is why you cannot interfere with anyone when it's their turn. No fighting, no jumping at the lever, no nothing. Otherwise, that'll wake the dragon and it'll roast you on the spot. I see. I'd like to ask, when does the game end? Will it end when 2 people are dead or when the entire hoard is stolen? The game ends when 2 dragon eggs are stolen. So 2 people are destined to die then. Val eagerly nodded her head. That's a pretty important question for you. What order are we going in? That's pretty important in a game like this. I'm glad you asked. We're going to draw straws, each numbered 1 through 4. That'll determine the order you go in. Oh, and the first time a dragon egg is stolen, I'll have you draw straws again, just to add in a little excitement and spice, you know? Random, huh? Well, I guess that's about as fair as you can make it. Yep, and I'm nothing if not fair. Any other questions? We were silent, indicating there were no questions left to ask. Excellent! Well, I'm glad that you got the gist of the game. And let's get started. First, let's draw straws. And with that, we're going to wrap this one up here. Because we're out of time for today, but in the next one, Dragon Hoard Snatchers or whatever the hell it is. It's the first time we've come across this background in the whole game, so that's interesting. I'm curious to see what happens in here. Anyway, thanks for watching, Bruce, and I'll see you in the next one.